Welcome to Cultural Connection. I'm Nancy Commodores. I'm the Cultural Arts Supervisor for the City of Farmington Hills. And we're here today at the Farmington Players Barn Theater with Jason Wilhoit, who's the current president of the Farmington Players. Welcome, Jason, to the show.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having us here in
my
your
pleasure.
wonderful facility. We
My
should
pleasure.
explain why we're sitting here in Dracula's castle, right?
Right, absolutely. Yeah, so right now we actually are in the middle of a production for Dracula. We have one more weekend left, and we are here. Actually, this is the first set that's been built on our brand new stage floor. We've been in this building 10 years, and we did put in a new stage floor this summer. And it's really exciting. It's a great new step forward for us. And if you look behind me, if you could see behind me, there's a new trap door in the floor. This one actually has the ability to lower someone down into it, which is kind of cool. It's the first show that we've done that, so it's very exciting.
I'm sure you're using that for Dracula.
Absolutely, absolutely. It was built specifically for Dracula.
Was it? Oh,
yeah,
that's great.
So they are making good use of it for sure.
Wonderful. Well, Jason, it occurred to me that we have done shows on the Players Barn itself and how it was built and so on, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the organization.
Sure.
And being the president and how it works. I'm not sure everyone understands exactly who the players are, even if they've come to a show sometimes.
Right.
So the enormity of this wonderful organization is really impressive.
Yeah.
Now you're president for how long?
This is actually my final season. This was my fourth and final season. So at that point, you're only allowed to be on the board for a total of 4 years. And each year we elect the different positions and officers. So the 4 years that I've been on the board, I've been president all of those years. And then at the end of this season in June, I'll come off the board and a new group of four will come on, and then they'll go through that process again to elect a new president. So it's kind of an exciting time for me, looking back at the 4 years too, and the just amazing stuff that we as an organization have been able to do. During my 4 years, and certainly in the history of this group, we have more than 140 members right now. We, in 2002, took on the tremendous job of building this new building.
Sure did.
And in less than a decade, we're able to pay it off completely.
And that's phenomenal.
Absolutely phenomenal.
That
I mean,
is
the
incredible.
forethought and the dedication of the members that took that step is really tremendous and has left us with a truly state-of-the-art facility. And in fact, just this weekend, we had a member who had moved away to Texas, and he came back, and we hung out this weekend, and I was showing him around the building at some of this stuff, and he goes, "You really have no idea until you leave how cool this is." And it really is. I'm so proud of it, and I know our members are so proud of it as well.
As you should be. And what impressed me too was the fact that you planned so far ahead. You maybe didn't have everything you needed in the beginning, but you've been adding and adding, just like the new stage floor. Every time, it seems like every year there's something new that makes it even more wonderful to be working here.
Yeah, and in fact, that's kind of a cool position that we're in right now, because we built the building, and as you said, we kind of had to do it on a really tight budget at the time, and now we're able and in a much better position to say, okay, we need something new. Let's make sure that we do it the best that we can do it and really, really get a very quality update. And we're thankfully in a position to be able to do that, which is really, really great.
Well, your organization, Jason, is all volunteer, correct?
Yep, absolutely. So we're an all-volunteer organization. All of the behind-the-scenes people are all volunteers, and people would probably be surprised to know, like even on a show like Dracula, which is so technically demanding, there's probably, I mean, I haven't have an exact count, but easily 150 to 160 or more people who have worked on this show in some form or some fashion, whether it be selling concessions to directing. I mean, it runs the gamut of responsibility and time commitment too, which is also really cool, because sometimes during a certain time in your life as a member, you may not have full-time commitment to say, I'm going to direct, or I'm going to be on stage, or I want to stage manage or do something that takes a lot more time, but I can always come in and usher for a night and see the show, but still be engaged in the group. And I think that that's something that keeps the members that we have had for 10, 20, 30 years, people have been members. So that part of it, I think, really makes it sustainable.
So how old are the players?
Actually, this is our 60th season.
60th.
Yeah,
Wow.
we started in 1953. Our first show that we did is the Torchbearer, and we actually have an award that we give to our membership called the Torchbearer Award. We award it every year to a male and female member who've been involved in the organization for 10 or more years. And it's voted on by the membership, and it's really a huge honor, I think, for the people that have been given that award to kind of, as a volunteer organization, you don't get paid, you don't get, you know, all of those things. You do, if you're on stage, get the accolades of being on stage, which is awesome. But this year we, you know, awarded it to two folks who have done a tremendous amount of work behind the scenes and never were even on the stage at the Farmington Players in a show that I know of. So that's really great because you can come here and still be involved and not necessarily have any desire to be on stage, because it's not about that. It's about doing theater. It's about being part of a community organization that supports the arts, but you don't have to necessarily want to be an actor or a singer to get involved and to be highly contributing to what we do.
Well, that's good to know, because you don't want to scare people away thinking, well, they're going to end up on the stage one way or the other. And
Sometimes that happens, though, and
I'm sure they get drawn in after a while. How could you not?
Right.
You know, it's so much fun, and you see everyone having such a great time on stage, but there's a lot of fun off stage as well.
There
right?
absolutely is, and in
Yeah.
fact, you know, a lot of those members get involved in what we call the spoof, which for those people who come to see the show may not realize that this happens, but after we close a show, the very last night, the crew has written a play,
Really?
like a spoof of the play that we just did, making fun of all of the things that happened during rehearsal, or making fun of accidents that people made or things that happen. And oftentimes you'll see those folks that don't necessarily want to be on stage in a main stage show playing you, a character, making a spoof of you, and it's always so much fun, and we really
Wow.
enjoy it. And we get a lot of members who'll come to that party just to watch that spoof.
I was going to say, I'd pay to see that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun
fun.
because you don't realize, like, and we'll always joke during rehearsals, oh, that's going to be in the spoof, you know, if
Sure.
something happens, or that will
Sure.
be something that will come back.
Have you got a favorite story of something that's happened during the play?
Oh, boy.
I'm kind of throwing that
Yeah,
at you.
oh,
but-
actually, I do have one that I just talked about it the other day. During the producers a few years ago, I was in that show, and we had a really, really fast change where we had to go off stage and get into these tuxedos. And during one of the last weeks in rehearsal, we were trying to figure out how we were going to do that. And I always had a dresser, and there were two actors who had to get into tuxedos. And I got off stage, and she was trying to get me into this tuxedo, and she's like, why is it so tight? And I can't figure out how to get it on. And so they finally got the shirt on. It was all Velcroed, and they got the tie on. I get on stage, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so tight. I don't know what's going on. And then my fellow actor, who also was supposed to have a tuxedo, comes out on stage, and they stop the show, and they say, what happened? And he has no shirt on, and I have two. They were trying to put both of the tuxedo shirts on me, and that's why it was so tight. And it's just when you're backstage and it's dark, and you know, you have no idea the amount of choreography that happens.
Oh,
So then we
yes.
had to break that down and be like, okay, you're gonna be right here and I'm gonna be right here, and this is what's gonna happen. But it was so funny because during it, I had no idea what was going on. And then after I looked at my castmate there, and I thought, you're not wearing a tuxedo shirt at all. That's what's the problem.
That reminds me of being at Michigan one time doing Caesar and Cleopatra, and sending Cleopatra out on stage in a nightgown, and it was a battle scene. And I just screwed up.
Those things happen,
Yeah.
and it always makes it, to me, even when I go to any community theater in the area, and this area is so blessed, honestly, the Farmington Players aside, with so many great community theaters. And you know, I would definitely invite people to come to the barn, but go see community theater in your area. It's something I'm very passionate about. There's so many great places to go and to see theater. But yeah, I mean, the things that happen on stage, that's just part of live theater. That's
Sure.
what makes it
Sure.
so cool. And even as an audience member, when I see something like that happen, I'm always like, you know what? That's what live theater is about. That's what makes it so engaging.
And the show always goes on. doesn't it?
Absolutely. That saying is not made up or is not without real roots in something very true. And that is what theater is about.
Well, Jason, for people who haven't been here, about how many plays a year do you do?
We are doing about 4 full productions a year, and we vary between 3 plays and 1 musical, or 2 musicals and 2 plays. It kind of depends on what things we're looking at as far as the plays that we've been reading. So we do, and within those shows, there are about around 50 performances a year with the 4 shows. So we probably have around 10,000 patrons who will see shows during a season of the Farmington Players, which is really cool.
Well, the nice thing about community theater too is it's affordable and it's close by. It's the greatest thing.
Absolutely.
You know, it's just a wonderful thing to bring your family to if you can't afford the big ticket prices in Detroit, and they're also very, very high quality here. I have to say, I've been so impressed over the years with some of the shows you've done.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, they really are great. They really are great. And you are not only president, you've also acted, and you've been singing and dancing in these shows for years. I remember you and the producers. It was a great show. I think you were very much a part of bringing Avenue Q here, which was a whole new thing for the players. You want to address that?
Yeah,
Jason?
sure. Yeah,
I saw it.
It was for Avenue Q. It wasn't a show that we felt like we wanted to put as part of our 4-season show. We have a very dedicated patron base, and we wanted to, because Avenue Q is an adult show. It's uses puppets, which kind of throws you off guard a little bit that it's an adult show, but it has very, very adult themes and whatnot. But it was a new show to the community theater world. And I remember the day that I got the email that said Avenue Q is now available for community theaters. It was the first year I was president. And I went to their website and I pulled a license, not even having permission to do it.
Wow.
I said, I'm pulling the
That's pretty
license. I picked days and I said, I think I can do it here. I pulled the license and I went to the board and I said, listen, this is an opportunity to be first at the table, to do something really fresh and new. And everyone just said, yep, let's do it. And people talk about it even now. They'll say, hey, I saw you in Avenue Q, or it was so great to have a community theater's take on that show. And I'm so happy that everyone was supportive of it and really came together and agreed, like, we need to push our envelope a little bit too and keep thinking about what the new generation of audience is gonna want to see and be interested in.
Right.
We always kind of joke that our audience, always has a certain age bracket, and it's like they just kind of rotate in, and I want to see younger folks come and be season ticket holders at the Farmington Players and bring, their new wives or new husbands and their families then as they grow up and become people who want to see live theater in the Metro Detroit area.
Well, that leads right into the partnership we have with you, the city has with you.
Absolutely.
We do the youth theater camps here in the summertime and a couple other camps as well, Glee Camp and Next Stage Camp. And that brings all the kids into the theater and their parents in, and I can't tell you how many people come in and say, wow, this is fantastic. I didn't know this was here. But my child's friend wanted to take this camp, and so now we're here, and they just get exposed. And of course, we're building audiences for the future that way too.
Absolutely, and I've come in to some of the shows and things that they've done there, and had the opportunity to talk to some of the kids, and you're absolutely right. I mean, to get a new base of people in this building and even know that it's here. It's surprising to me when you always ask that question when you have your cultural event concert series and you ask always, how many of you is this the first time being here at the barn? And without exception, more than half will always raise their hand, and it's always shocking to me, but also so cool that we can kind of cross-pollinate that way.
That's exactly right. I think it goes both ways too with your plays, and then they hear about the concerts here. it's a little confusing to them sometimes because the city does the concerts, you do the plays, but that doesn't matter.
No,
We're all
we work
one
it
art
out.
community. Yeah.
No, I just got one actually last week, an email from a patron who's like, hey, I want to buy tickets to the next concert series show, and so I sent him on the information. Oh, thanks. You know, we get those calls all the time, and you know, we definitely are having to, you know, kind of sort that out, but it also gets that connection point back,
Sure.
which is important.
It's the same with us. We have your schedule on all of our bulletin boards back in Cultural Arts so that when we get those calls, we can tell them what the next play is
Right.
and how to get tickets and so on. And
Yeah.
it's an audience that appreciates both aspects of the art, so
Right.
it's a win-win situation.
Sure.
It's just been great for us.
Yeah.
So we really enjoy that too.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, what a great place to do concerts. It's just so intimate and the acoustics are fabulous. I mean, you've done such a great job with this theater.
It really is, and it's a pleasure because to me it's the perfect size. It's big enough to where when you have it full, it feels really great, and yet small enough to where I can really make sure that the audience is engaged completely in what we're doing, and it's a great room to sing in. I mean, it really has a wonderful feel to it. We're very blessed with a really tremendous space, for sure.
And of course, that was one of your goals, wasn't it? To keep it small and intimate, just like the original barn.
Absolutely,
Is that right?
absolutely. I mean, and for many people who come in for the first time are often thrown off by the shape of the building when they're walking up, because it looks like a barn. And then you walk in and it's kind of immediately taken away to this, you know, more kind of modern looking structure inside. And, you know, we originally, or on this location, performed for many years in an actual dairy barn that was kind of retrofit as a theater.
I remember.
I unfortunately didn't have the pleasure of
Oh, really?
ever being in the old barn.
Oh, really?
And
Yeah.
it saddens me, actually, to have never had that experience, because now I hear the stories of, oh yes, there was no heat, or how you had to, you know, walk through this, you know, through the audience to get to the bathrooms and all. I mean, so there's all these great tales of the old barn that I unfortunately never had the pleasure of being in it. But they really kept that in mind when they took steps to build this new building. And sure, they could have made it bigger, or they could have made it different, but they wanted to stay true to that kind of size theater that we have, and I think executed it really successfully.
Well, Jason, let's talk about some of the actors that you have in your shows. Where do they come from? And do you have to be a member to audition?
First, yes, you do have to be, you don't have to, let me rephrase, you don't have to be a member to audition. It's an open audition. But if you are cast, you do have to become a member. And our members range from people who live literally within walking distance to this building, and people who come from Lansing or Grosse Pointe or Detroit or Trenton, you name it. We've had people, you know, be in shows from all over the Metro Detroit area. And I think the one draw from an actor's perspective that will bring you in is the show. I want to audition for that show because I've always wanted to do it. I've always wanted to play that part. And people will come in and audition, and then if they get the part, they become a member, and then my hope is they say, wow, this is an amazing facility. These people really care about what we're doing. I'm gonna become a member next year. And then you retain that person. And we always kind of joke in a way about when you cast a show, one of the questions some of the members, like the members will ask is, all right, how many do you think are keepers? How many do you think will stay?
Really?
And we kind of always have like a little inside bet about that. Because, you know, sometimes, and which is totally fine. I mean, people come and they say, I want to do that show here, and then maybe they do a show at another theater, and I have no problem with that. I mean, if I saw a show somewhere that I really wanted to audition for, I would go audition for it too. But it's always great when we have people who we retain, and to me it's a testament to the organization, and that people say, hey, I want to remain part of this because of the work that they do.
Well, it's a community in and of itself, really it is. You know,
Yes.
you have social events and you have, well, you're all working towards such a great goal.
Yeah, absolutely.
And look what you've achieved. I
Yeah.
mean, that's such a source of pride to be part of this organization.
Yeah, and we really do celebrate a lot too about it. I mean, we you know.
You do celebrate a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are definitely a
Which is good.
group that, you know, after every show on a Friday, Saturday night, you'll find people in this lobby, you know, staying after and enjoying each other's company,
Sure.
and or going to cast members' homes who will open their home and have people come in. And the best part about it is the cast parties are not, we call them cast parties, but they're not for the cast alone. They're for the crew, they're for the cast, they're for any person who's a member of this organization. They just show up.
Well, that's good.
And they're part of the fabric of our organization, and everyone is there and able to join in.
Well, you and I both know, doing events and shows and so on, that even the smallest thing can matter a lot to the end result, whether it's acting or whatever it is, even ticket sales or whatever. You know, a glitch in the phone line can really mess up a whole show. Something small like that can happen, and so what everybody contributes is important, even
Absolutely.
the tiniest thing, which is something that you guys appreciate, and I think that matters too.
Yeah.
It really does. Well, Jason, how did you get involved? How did you find out, and how did you get
Actually, it's an
taken
interesting
in?
story. You know, I studied music in college, and I was a teacher actually for a couple of years. I decided I didn't want to do that anymore, but I still needed to do something with music. And I had a friend of mine who went to my church, and she said, you know, I'm involved with this place, the Farmington Players. And I was talking to her about an idea I had for a 2-person musical that I wanted to do. And she said, let me talk to the board of Farmington Players. Maybe they'll be willing to produce it for you. And I thought, okay, cool. So I came in, with my friend, and we gave a presentation to the board and said, we'd like to do this 2-person show in a kind of summer slot, like one weekend in the summer. And it's funny because they said yes. And now looking back at it as a member of the board now, what a tremendous gift it was that they said yes, because I don't know that I would. It's so funny because I look at that and I say, you know, I don't know these people very well. Am I going to give them an opportunity to come and do this show on our stage? So I'm so grateful for that board at that time who thought, there's something about these 2 people that makes me want to say yes. And they said yes, and we did that show, and we both became members and have sustained our involvement from that point to now, both of us, and it's been awesome. So it has changed my life as far as what kind of theater stuff I've done as an adult, because you know, I don't know where I would have gotten involved or how I would have gotten involved if not for that.
Wow, that's fantastic. I didn't know that.
It's a really cool story, but a really interesting way that most people start with, like, hey, I saw this show and I went and auditioned for it and I became a member.
Right.
So it's like I said, it was. I look back at it and I think, wow, how cool of them to be. All right, yep, we're going to take the chance on this.
Well, what do you think community theater's done for you as a person? Now that you started with that, was that your first entry into community theater?
Absolutely, yeah.
It
I
was.
mean, my friend of mine who actually, we kind of made that presentation together, she had done community theater as she grew up a little bit, where I didn't. I always did like community or theater in my school, and I never did both. So for me, what it has done for understanding how an organization works, it honestly has helped me even in my professional career, I believe.
Really? Yeah, I can understand that.
And especially being on the board, it's literally running a business and learning about really how all of that, you know, works, and then adding the other layer of having to do it in a volunteer setting where everyone's voice needs to be heard, and there really isn't a whole lot of like, you know, I'm your boss or I can, you know, lead things. You really have to be collaborative, and you really have to be, you know, working together. And so it has taught me a tremendous amount about how to accomplish things and how to kind of project manage, lead things to get a project done or to get something accomplished. behind the scenes. On stage, I've been very blessed here also to have a number of really great opportunities to be on stage, and which I love to do, and it's been a joy to do some of the roles and play some of the characters that growing up I thought, you know, as an actor you have this list. I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do that, and I've had an opportunity to check off a good number on my list, and so that's really cool, and I'm really grateful for that too.
So of course I have to ask, what was your favorite role? Can you say even?
The role I wanted the most, or the role I wanted to do for the longest time, is probably in Little Shot, playing Seymour.
Oh, really?
I wanted to do that in high school. I almost got to do it in high school, and then they changed the plan. And then finally, 2 years ago-ish, I got to do it here. And I love that show. I loved doing it. And it's probably one of my favorites. The producers, though, was just a tremendous experience, and just a fun show to be a part of. And actually, that show was the first show that we had done with the rigging, which we had installed around that time. So that was a huge learning experience for us, to how you fly all of this stuff in. And it's like, you know, we didn't do ourselves. We didn't walk an easy road when we said, "Oh, we're going to put in rigging, and then the first show we're going to do with it is something like The Producers." So we really took on a big challenge, but I really feel like we, you know, exceeded it for sure.
Well, how do the players select their plays?
We have a committee of 5 people that reads plays throughout like 8-month period. And each month they come to the board, the chairperson of that committee, and they talk about the shows that they're reading, and then the board, the 8 people that are on the board, can make some comments about, yep, I really love that show, or hey, I want to learn more about that show, or you know what, we just did a show that's kind of like that, maybe you should not look at that show. So we're kind of in communication with the committee. And then the committee will present to the board 12 shows within different categories: comedies, dramas, musical, maybe a couple holiday shows. And they'll present 12 shows, and also what their slate of 4 would be if they got to pick.
Oh, okay.
And from there, the board reads the 12 shows or reviews them, and we vote. The 8 of us, we do like a multi-voting process, and then we discuss, and then we boil it down to the 4 shows. And actually, in 2 weeks' time, we'll be making that decision for our next season, the 2014-15 season. So we have the 12 shows handed over to us from the play reading committee, and then the next step will be the board will pick from those 4 shows.
Well, that's exciting, isn't it?
It is exciting, and it's one of the biggest decisions that the board makes, honestly.
It sure is, yes.
Because it's so important to have a balance of male, female actors, youth actors, subject matter, musical versus straight play, comedy versus drama. What have we done in the last 5 years? What have we done in the last 20 years? So we really think about a lot of angles when we're going about making that decision. And then, you know, you're held accountable to it by those ticket sales. So, you know, you have a base of patrons that come and buy, you know, season tickets, but how those shows do with, like, what I call the ad hoc sales, the additional sales, is really key. And then, you know, you learn from every decision. That's the other thing that I think I learned as being not just on the board, but as a member of this group doing a show. You have to learn from every decision. You have to make sure that whatever decision you make, you stick to it, but you're also willing to learn and grow from it and change or move away from it if it's not working out.
That's so interesting to me to hear you say, as an adult, you're learning all these things, because we're always talking about that with youth theater and how much they learn from being in youth theater above and beyond being on the stage and working together, the collaboration between all the different parts and people and all the things that are happening, and costumes and sets and organization, you know, and you of course take it a step above, because like you said, it's a nonprofit business, but just being involved with a group and putting on something like a play where you have to kind of lose a piece of yourself for the greater piece of the whole thing, I think it's really important. And I think kids learn that, and they carry that too throughout their lives.
I hope so, and I hope that it's something that as my youth theater experience foundation that I started to learn, and as you say, even as an adult, I continue to learn it. And that's why I think theater for kids in schools, in the camp programs that the city does, are so important. I mean, we talk about supporting our kids' ability to become part of the community and become valued members of it. And sometimes I don't think we ever let them be part of a community to learn how to do it. And theater oftentimes, as is athletics or other types of activities where they're in a group like that, it's a way for them to do it with training wheels as a kid.
Yes,
and they can learn from that, and they can grow from that. And they need to figure out, where do they fit in? And maybe I'm not the one who's going to be the quarterback or get the lead role. Maybe I'm the one who needs to, tackle on the line, or I'm the one who's going to be in the chorus. And those are valuable lessons for people to learn with what their skill sets are for different things and different activities, and to be okay with it, and to understand that that person who's tackling and that person that's in the chorus is equally important to the quarterback or the star actor. They all play a part, and learning that in theater, you can be the star player in one show, and in the next show you can be in the chorus. That's awesome. I mean, that's where I think it's like, hey, this show fits me perfectly. I can be out front, center stage. This show, I really want to be a part of it, but there's really no role that fits me perfectly, but I can be a supporting character, and I can still be part of it and play a really integral role. And that's life. I mean, sometimes you're, doing something where it's all on you, and other times you're doing something where you're playing more of a support role to others. And learning that activity that's also so fun, why wouldn't you want to do that to your kids? Why wouldn't you want to have them do that?
That's right. And it builds their self-esteem too, as
Absolutely.
well. We have a lot of kids that start out as very, very shy and just aren't aware that they can do this until they find out they can. And just that presence that they learn from being in theater, and how they carry it through their work, just like you said, all the things that you learn in theater. So very important, very, very important.
Yeah.
So Jason, how do people find out about the Players and find out about tickets and so on?
The main way that we've been doing our ticket sales right now is online. We've really, that's one thing that I've also seen a growth in.
Yes,
is the way we've sold tickets.
Right.
When I first started, it was call the box office, and we've started to offer our tickets online. You can still call the box office, and I welcome you to do so. You can still call the box office, but I have been kind of keeping track of how many tickets we sell in the box office versus how many tickets we sell online. And year over year, it's increasing to online. So going to our website, farmingtonplayers.org, you can see our full schedule. You can figure out, you can buy tickets directly from there. You can contact our box office. You can see our calendar of events and what else we have going on. But really, to see the way that has changed and evolved is really cool. We also, when I first started, had general admission for our
that's a big change.
For our patrons. And one of the first years that I was on the board, we made this decision to go to an assigned seating format, which everyone was a little bit nervous about, to be quite honest. Like, we had not sure how it would work. And our ticket agent supported that functionality, and the board all was in agreement that this is a better way for our patrons. It's more comfortable, it's more relaxed when they come in. They don't have to try to fight for their seats to get the ones that they want. And it has been, I think, nothing but a success. And I think even those people who were really, really nervous and even said, hey, I don't think we should do this, they've all jumped aboard now and said, this is the better way for our patrons. And so that's really cool. And as a patron, I like to go to a place like that, because I can buy my tickets online, I can pick my seats exactly what I want. I don't have to worry about where I'm gonna, sit or get here 45 minutes early because I want to get a good spot in line. I can have a relaxed evening, I can go have some dinner, I can come to a show, and it just, I think, has made the experience a lot more patron friendly, which is what we wanted to do with making a change like that.
Well, the Players are always going up that next step. They always are, to try and become more professional, but yet still have that solid place in the community. And that's such a great balance.
Yeah.
Because everything you do is quality. It's just a great place to come and see a play, and the stuff that you put on is great. Your choices, I think, are always wonderful with your plays.
Thank you. And I think that we are in a position which is so freeing to be able to say, you know what, we've paid off this building. We have a really great
Amazing.
balance of shows that we've done. We have a really great foundation of support from our patrons. We can also say now, you know, we're going to take a risk on a show that maybe is lesser known, or a little edgier like Avenue Q, or something like that. You know, last year we did the show Rabbit Hole, which is a very, you know, heavy drama, and it was a beautiful show. And, you know, being able to take those kinds of chances where before we might say, well, no, we should probably only do shows that we know the audience is just going to come for. But then that doesn't challenge our membership community.
Exactly.
It doesn't challenge the people that are here. And while we do want to do good shows, we also have to think of the people who are members, that what are the kinds of shows that excite them? How do they, you know, get going on those kinds of shows too? And
push the envelope just a little bit, so you've got that little element of education too.
Absolutely.
Which is what we try to do too with the city. Just add something every now and then. Yes, we want to keep everything, you know, patron happy, you know, as far as that goes, but still, you always want to add that one extra element. And I agree with that 100%, because if you do the same thing all the time, it's going to get boring after a while, even to you.
Absolutely.
And you guys always seem to find that edge to make it just more interesting.
And it's really about balance to me, you know, and, you know, we really have to consider so many things about when you're picking that season. And, you know, with that decision in my head 2 weeks from now or so, there's so many things that I've already thought about that you're like, okay, well, if I do this, then I know that I can't do this show. And, you know, so you have to really, really balance it all out, from the classic, you know, good old chestnut of a standard comedy to maybe doing something a little more modern that, you know, has been produced, written in the last 5-10 years.
And that's great. That you can bring that into our community is wonderful.
Yeah, that's what I hope. I mean, I hope that people appreciate that, because,
I'm sure they do.
you know, that's the other thing that's really cool from an audience perspective is a show, some of the shows that we do, you'd never get the opportunity to see them live at the Fisher, you know, or downtown, or at somewhere like that, because they would never bring that show in, because not enough people would buy tickets to it, period, to sell 1,500 seats or however many. But a community theater organization can say, I can do that show, and I can bring that show to the Metro Detroit area and allow patrons to see something that they wouldn't have an opportunity to see otherwise. They're never going to make a movie out of this. It's never going to be a miniseries on TV, but I can see it by coming to the Farmington Players. And I think that's really what it's about, is that exposure too, to not only our membership, but also to our patrons.
Well, Jason, it's an amazing organization, and you, as president, have done a wonderful job. Working with you has been phenomenal for me.
My pleasure as well.
Yeah, it's just been great, and this group is such a source of pride for this community. So congratulations to you and all the members.
Thank you.
Everything that you do. And I'd like to tell our audience, if you're watching the show and you haven't been to a play, you need to look on the website and get to one of the plays, and I think you'll be just drawn right in to the season. There's always something, and the concerts as well. You know, make an opportunity to come here to the Farmington Players Barn Theater, because it is a true gem in this community, a real gem. So,
thank you, Nancy. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and I really appreciate it. So I do hope that we see all these folks at the barn someday.
Oh, I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will, sooner or later. But thanks a lot, Jason, for being with us today. And thanks to all of you for joining us on Cultural Connection.